Good afternoon, St. Luke's University Health Network stakeholders. My name is Sean Hastings. I'm a project manager, and I'm here to tell you about the feasibility study of the pharmacy department at St. Luke's. The current situation at St. Luke's is that they dedicate resources such as utilities and equipments to the clinical pharmacists at each of their locations. But the clinicals can work remotely and effectively. This is seen through their schedule when they work the weekends or holidays where they can work remotely while they are in office Monday through Friday. I've outlined a proposal that is a feasibility study. Feasibility study is a way to evaluate whether a project plan can be successful or not before moving into a larger project. Through this feasibility study, we can show how the cost savings can be towards St. Luke's University for just moving the clinical pharmacist to working remotely before you guys decide to move forward into a larger project. To achieve this, there's a variety of goals. The first goal is that by March 2025, St. Luke's will provide the training resources for each clinical pharmacist to conduct remote work for the start of the feasibility study. This would be done through several objectives, such as obtaining equipment for the pharmacist to work remote, including laptops and/or phones if you choose. It will also include conducting training on work policies for working remote, so all the clinical pharmacists know how to operate in a remote setting. The next objective is to train pharmacists on how to access patient information at home and how to keep it secure while away from the hospital location. The last objective for the first goal is that they will conduct final assessments on all the trainings to make sure the clinical pharmacists are ready to begin the study. The second goal is that you will collect the necessary financial information to create a baseline of costs to begin the study. This is to ensure that we can accurately measure whether there's cost savings throughout the course of the study. To achieve this, the clinical pharmacist would chart the costs they have commuted to work, such as gas and tolls if applicable, and associated other expenses. It would also be achieved through buildings and grounds, calculating the cost of utilities that each office pulls from the overall utility bill. You will also take the cost of the utilities and combine it with the cost of physicians' pay broken down by daily, weekly, and monthly to show what the total overall cost is for each clinical to be in an office working. The last objective for this goal is that I will create a baseline cost of utility, pay, and the cost of the clinical pharmacist to be in the feasibility study so we can move forward and know what our baseline is. The third goal deals with the start of the feasibility study, which will outline specific guidelines to ensure that the data can be analyzed at the end of the project for St. Luke's University Health Network. First objective is that you split the 12 clinical pharmacists into 3 groups: fully remote, hybrid, and normal work schedule. This is to showcase whether fully remote, hybrid, and normal being the baseline, and a hybrid and fully remote will show what the cost differences and savings will be from moving to hybrid, from normal to hybrid or normal to full, but also show that you can go at a slower rate to go into fully remote if desired. Second objective is that the clinical pharmacists in the hybrid and work office group will give an updated Excel on the cost for commuting to work each week. Third objective, that there will be an updated Excel on the cost of utilities being used by the work and office group of the utilities they are using. The last objective is that the clinical pharmacist will give updates on several metrics, including commute time, cost of commuting, time starting work, patients worked with, and time spent with each patient. This is to show that working with patients in a remote setting will not negatively impact the care for the patients while they aren't in an office at the hospital, and that working remotely, they can still give exceptional care to those patients when needed. The last goal is that the feasibility data collection will end and the analysis of the gathered data will begin. This will be done that at the end of the feasibility study, they will provide the project manager with the final data from expenses of commuting to and from, and also the use of utilities. Project manager would then compile the data from the beginning, midpoint, end of the feasibility to show how that changed throughout the course of the 6 months. Then the data will be computed through data analytics and figure table being constructed to create a final report for St. Luke's University Health Network stakeholders. The last objective, the project manager would then conduct a review of the data analytics to the stakeholders, present the final findings in a report for them. The cost for the employees to work commuting to and from work is calculated through a wide variety of variables. This includes gas used weekly as they commute from their home to the workplace, the mileage put on their vehicle, which will result in maintenance work needing to be done at a sooner time than if they weren't commuting. Oil change, as they put the necessary mileage on their cars, they would have to change in order to keep their car functioning so they can come into work. And for certain clinicals, there's tolls that are applicable depending on where they live so they can get to this health network location that they are at. And then at the end, it's time spent traveling to and from work. This turns a normal 8 to 9 hour shift day working as a clinical pharmacist to potentially a 10 to 11 hour day depending on where they are coming from. If you take this time out, it can relieve stress on the clinical pharmacists as they deal with their home life and while working, that they don't have to worry about the traffic that is also coming in at them. The cost of St. Luke's University Health Network, there are several costs broken down. This includes equipment, training, data analysts. The necessary equipment includes a laptop and or phone, whether or not St. Luke's decides to give them a phone. This is cost that they may not have already before and will need to be provided to them. Second part, training. To make sure that the clinical pharmacists are ready to work from home remotely full time, they would need training from different resources on how to conduct St. Luke's business and how to keep patients' files secure while working at a non-hospital location. The last part of the cost is the data analyst at the end of the study. As the data is compiled over the 6 months, it would be analyzed and figures created to get the necessary findings to see where the cost savings are, if any. This will be one of the necessary costs for St. Luke's and one of the biggest costs. There are two financial ratios that will be used to show the cost savings to St. Luke's University at the end of the feasibility study. The two that you see here are examples, as exact numbers aren't gained until the end of the study. The left figure is a break-even analysis. This shows how much the cost of the feasibility study, broken down by the training and cost of employees, how long it would take to reach a break-even point. For time, it's 2.62, so you will see the benefit at the cost of what we calculated to be 2.62 years. The return on investment shows what the return from this investment in currently will be for the future. For standardized, we did it for 1 year, which shows an 8.05% return on investment. Though that seems like not a huge investment gain, this is only a point of 1 year, and when move forward over multiple years and this compounding, you can see a much higher return on investment. In conclusion, my recommendation is for St. Luke's University Health Network to accept this proposal, as the ROI break-even analysis shows us the possibility of cost savings to the health network is a worthy investment. Though some of the numbers don't seem large for the first year, when compounded over time, the cost savings will be greater, and those resources that are used at the clinical pharmacist currently can be used to benefit other areas of the hospital. If this proposal is accepted, we will move forward with the implementation meeting, where we then discuss the schedule and timeline of what St. Luke's wants to move forward with. I'm currently set with a 6-month timeline to gather data, but St. Luke's could decide to shorten or extend it at their discretion, though it will affect the costs. This feasibility can be conducted with minimal impact on patient care, as we see currently that on holidays, and weekends that the clinical pharmacist, when it's their turn, work remote. So there's little worry to patient care, but the upside is the cost savings to the health network, which is worthy of moving forward with this feasibility study. Thank you for the time and consideration. Is there any final questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you again. I appreciate you letting me come in here and propose this feasibility study. My contact information is on the slide if you want to reach out and move forward with this. And this last slide is an overview of the references I use throughout the slides. There are a larger amount of resources and are more in-depth in the proposal in front of you, and those references are listed there.